Hey everybody, it's no secret that some techs in Civ 3 do absolutely nothing. But additionally, I'd say about 75% of the techs on the tree do almost nothing, at least at the time that you unlock them. Progress made through the game is heavily dictated by a dozen or so milestone techs that actually give you an immediate effect when you research them. These are the techs that you should be prioritizing in your games. Let's take a look. Here is a list of the criteria that I'm using for the choosing. Most importantly, I'm evaluating how much of a power spike the tech is at the moment that you unlock it. Courthouses, for example, are great, but like a lot of other infrastructure buildings in Civ 3, you don't really need to be able to build them until a few dozen turns after they're unlocked. You certainly wouldn't be rushing to Code of Law for an immediate power spike. Same thing with currency and construction. These are important techs, but they're not a power spike. We're comparing based on power spikes. Number 12 is engineering. Any tech that just gives you something for free is great. This tech makes your roads better. On some maps, this is a lifesaver. Things can get really nasty if the AI have mobile units and you can't rotate your defenders around. And it also gives you trebuchets, which can be quite useful. Number 11 is literature. The Great Library is the most powerful wonder in the game. It is a must for One City Culture games, so just having the option to build it is quite powerful, even if a lot of the time you won't or you can't. I'd say when you unlock Lit, you probably wouldn't be at a phase where you're building libraries just yet. You're probably still expanding. You might have a lot of expansion still left to do. Maybe just one library in your capital, unless you're scientific. In that case, it's a cheap option for a border expand, and you would want one in your core cities too, even if it's not crazy important. Number 10 is sanitation. Removing disease is okay. It doesn't come up very often, and it's not that impactful outside of the early game. But if you're going for domination or a science victory, you want hospitals. The 100% defense bonus for metropolises is a nice perk, plus being able to use the additional tiles is quite good. Number 9 is industrialization. Factories are very similar to hospitals in the sense that if you're going for the good victory conditions, that is One City Culture or diplomatic, you don't really need them. But for factories, in all cases, no matter what, you definitely need one in your capital and maybe a coal plant too, just to build Theory of Evolution and the United Nations faster. If you're going for space race or domination, unless it's already in the bag, you want factories in all your core cities, and the sooner you get them, the better the return on investment is. This tech also unlocks universal suffrage, which is an extremely underwhelming wonder, but it's sometimes worth building. Number 8 is pottery. A lot of civs start with this, and it's very cheap to trade for it, so you might forget that not having pottery kinda does suck. The return on investment of granaries is complicated, but they're strong. You will want one, often immediately, in a few core cities. There are very few ways to convert production into food. This is the best one. Number 7 is Republic. I think a lot of players would place this higher, but the truth is that Republic is only really useful at the margin if you rush for it, and slowly it becomes more essential as time passes. An early switch into Republic could screw up your game with unit support costs and war wariness if you don't know what you're doing. That's not just if you're at war. Sometimes the maintenance on workers alone will bankrupt you. But the reduced corruption helps you build out your secondary cities, and removing the despotism penalty can also be very strong. Often it can double the speed of your growth in some cities. Number 6 is ironworking. The 3 unique units unlocked with this tech are all important for the civs that have them, and the swordsman is one of the best base units in the game. Not only that, but you can use this technology to convert gold into shields by upgrading warriors. You also benefit a lot from just seeing the iron on the map as soon as possible. You'll definitely need it later for railroads. By the way, all the clips that you're seeing today are from my streams. I stream on Sunday at noon Eastern Time. Lately, I've been having the viewers pick the map, and we've had some shit shows as a result. There's a link to the Discord below. You can even vote what start you want me to play. Number 5 is military tradition. This one is easy to trade for, so I often skip it, but it is very powerful. The 3 moves on cavalry is extremely good, both on offense and on defense. Any civ without saltpeter can be completely wiped out by these. And there are also 2 solid unique units at this tech. Military academies can be okay too. Number 4 is flight. I did a whole video about how insane bombers are. They're not quite as good as artillery on the highest difficulties, but this is not the fault of the tech. The earlier you get the tech, the more effective it is. And all of the things that help you defend against bombers are also at flight. Number 3 is nationalism. The rifleman gets overshadowed a bit by the infantry, but it is a good, cost-effective unit. Nationalism also unlocks some generally useless diplomacy options, but it comes with 3 more abilities. These abilities come relatively late in the game, and many players do not remember how to use them. They don't know how they work, and they certainly don't know all the tricks and exploits that you can do with them. The first is the policeman, which isn't great, but it is a decent option for min-maxing in high food, high corruption cities. Second is drafting. This makes it very hard to get caught with your pants down. If you're going to lose a city, you just draft instead. Also, notice that if you disband a drafted unit, it will give you more than 20 shields. This makes drafting strictly better than pop rushing, and it avoids the inherent wasted overflow from pop rushing too. The third ability is wartime mode. Again, not very well understood, but if you use it well, it's basically a 40% increase in shields. If you're going for domination using cavalry, you can just turn off your brain and switch into wartime mode. And if you're using artillery or bombers, you can still get the wartime bonus as long as you switch production at the right time. So, why do I skip nationalism so often in my playthroughs? Well, there is a massive chasm between number 3 and number 2 on the list. Number 2 is replaceable parts. This shows you where the rubber is. You'll need it for most good land units throughout the end of the game. Infantry are unlocked here too. They are an incredible, cost-efficient defensive unit. Replaceable parts also unlocks the engineer. It plays a similar role to the policeman, but interestingly, there's a bug that lets you multiply the shields that the engineer creates. The tech also unlocks artillery. This is the most powerful unit in the game. Combine it with railroads and cavalry, and you can stomp the whole map very quickly. And then, in addition to all of that, the tech just passively doubles your worker speed. That is insane. There is one tech that is better, though. Number 1 is steam power. Tragically, in the Conquest expansion, this tech was nerfed. It was just too powerful, and regretfully, they decided that ironclads needed to be moved to a separate tech. Despite this colossal setback, this is still the most powerful tech in the game, and 80% of players kind of just ignore that fact. I want you to wipe your memory clean and picture this. Imagine that there was a tech in Civ 3 that added 1 food or shield to all of your land tiles. So imagine you have a pretty big empire, 20 cities, 15 tiles each, 300 total, all of those tiles are getting buffed by railroads. In these circumstances, unlocking this tech just gives you 100 cows. I'm not done yet. In addition, this tech also allows you to teleport every single unit to anywhere connected by land in your empire, as often as you would like, without consuming a movement point. I think if I described this tech to you, you would say, wow, I need to get this tech as soon as possible. But for some reason, if we just name it steam power, everybody's brain just stops functioning. You don't need economics, you don't need free artistry, even nationalism, sanitation, and military tradition will have to wait. The entire game is warped around how powerful this tech is. If you don't have coal, well, the tech allows you to see the coal. You can now trade for it or conquer it. This is now your only mission. Do it for the cows. Alright, here's the list of honorable mentions. Do not post your opinions in the comments, because I have a completely unwarranted sense of self-esteem. Take care, everybody.